Happy Saturday.
This week on our podcast, Ear Biscuits, we talked to Freddie Wong. Heard of him? His name's Freddie Wong. He's a YouTuber. A lot of people have watched his videos.
Lots of special effects and whatnot.
We got the story on how he got involved in videos, how he made a movie in high school, how he was the Guitar Hero world champion.
Many other things. We'll play an excerpt at the end of this. You can click through to go to soundcloud.com/earbiscuits or iTunes. Available anywhere, not just the U.S., just for clarification.
Those of you who are not in the U.S. and you clicked on the iTunes link last week, you were like, oh, it's not available. That was because we had a U.S. in the link. We've taken the U.S. out. It is available everywhere.
Just take the U.S. out. It just takes care of it. Takes care of itself.
Take the U.S.
Who
out.
Who knew? So hopefully that ear biscuit can contribute to the virality of your weekend. I don't know. You want your weekends to be...
No, you don't want anything
viral
to happen on the weekends.
Or viral?
You're totally safe.
One of the things that Freddie mentioned was he talked about a friend that he had in, what is this, like middle schoolish time period for him, I think. The first guy that he knew that got internet.
Well, who got cable internet.
Right.
Because they had DSL. And then he was on some island, and his name was Barry, and Barry was the guy who got everything before everyone else got it. And
always ahead of the curve.
It got us to thinking about our friend Ben, who we talked about a little bit on the during the podcast, who actually passed away a couple years ago. But we've always talked about how, there were two of us that were running around with each other when we were younger, and Ben was almost always there. And
at certain stints, you were better friends with Ben than you were with me.
Well, his house was closer to mine.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't
proximity.
Take it personal.
Convenience. That's what they call it.
But he was a visionary. He always had these big ideas, and he was the leader. You would think that we would have great ideas, but Ben was the guy with the great ideas, and we were just like, yes, that's a great idea. But let's do it.
And this is before you had the internet. This is before anyone had anything other than their parents or the library to get ideas from. Maybe he just went to the library a lot, because you would go over to his house and he would be like, I found this plant in the woods and we can make tea with it. Mm-hmm. And it'd be like, is this safe? He's like, totally safe. It's in this book that I got from the library.
He was very definitive in his knowledge. He had a computer before anybody else. And did he have the first version of the internet, or was the programs that he was writing, they were just...
There was no internet. I mean,
they were just local.
Yeah, he had, I guess, an Apple computer. And I don't know what it was. I mean, we're probably talking about like 1988 is the year that we're talking about, that I would go over there and he would have the computer. And he was like, there's this...
There wasn't internet, but only astronauts had it.
Yeah, right. He's like, there's this thing called DOS, and we can write stuff in DOS, and we can create a game in DOS. And I'm like, DOS? What is this DOS?
Well, all it is, I went over there. You guys had worked. You come to school and be like, we're writing this thing in DOS. You know what DOS is. I'm like, what is this thing, DOS?
You're expecting to be like a book that says DOS on the front
it was
of
a computer screen with just... a green flashing cursor, and then you would just type words, and you guys wrote it,
a full game,
and I would go over and I would play it. It was a role-playing game, total text-based. Would you like to go left or right at the dragon?
It's phenomenal, that
kind of a thing.
We were like 10 and 11 years old. And now, first of all, I could not have done this without Ben. Ben is sitting there writing, and now I am coming up with some of the ideas, like, what are we going to call it? What is the guy's name going to be called? And what is this dragon that he runs in going to be called?
Do you remember what it was called?
No, no details. I do remember that we had like a mixture of our two names, like Betren or something like that. It was like
you shipped yourself.
The Isle of Betren or something like that.
I do remember that.
That was like where this was taking place. And what I was like, okay, Ben, it's really cool that we're making these decisions, and you've got to like choose this direction, and then you've got to like go west or go east, or you got to kill this dragon, or you got to become friends with it, or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then when we win, what's going to happen? He's like, well, I can make the screen flash different colors when you win. I was like, what? And sure enough, when you beat the game, of course, I knew how to beat the game because we came up with it.
I never beat the game.
Yeah, we didn't.
Never saw the
tell
flashing.
you. I mean, it was only probably like 10 steps, but when you beat the game, it suddenly went flash different colors, and I think it made like some beeping noises.
We're almost going a little too deep into this DOS game. We did a lot of other things with Ben that made him a visionary. One day, he was like, let's go out and chop a tree down. I think there was an episode of Good Morning Lincoln where we talked about chopping down the tree. He was a master at swinging on vines. There were lots of vines that grew from the ground up into the trees, and then you could cut off the bottom and swing like Tarzan, and suffered lots of injuries that way.
That's where I got my first back injury that now has turned into subsequent herniated discs and that kind of thing. So I guess I have Ben to thank for that.
What else? And we talked about damming the creek, and we got into canoeing and kayaking. Lots of other things that we can say for the book.
I will say, not only did Ben get the idea to dam the creek up behind his house, but he was like, let's dam this creek. Did I make that noise, Matt? Let's dam this creek up, and then we're going to build a raft to raft in the lake that we're going to create. So we created a raft. We tied
you lashed
these huge limbs together, and then we dammed up the creek. But when we took it back to it was like 1 foot of like muddy water. It was like, are we floating, or are we kind of just standing on this wood? I don't really know. But I mean, we were like 12. I mean, it was still pretty phenomenal that it was even happening, that there was a raft that was built in any capacity. And then the last thing I'll say is, unless you've got anything else, the last thing I'm ever going to say is one summer, right around that same time, late 80s, Ben was like, hey, the bowfin have migrated upstream into the lake. I'm like, what the heck? What is he talking about, bowfin? He said there is a prehistoric scaly fish that when the tide is, when the level of the river is right, they will come up the creek, and then we can catch them using live fish. We'll hook a brim, he'll swim around in these boats. I'm like, he's making this up. But the next day, we go out there, we put a live fish on the hook, we throw it out there, and about 10 minutes later, we get this 2.5 foot long prehistoric scaly fish that had teeth, and it was like like a bite your finger off.
A bowfin.
And we're catching these things and we caught them all summer long. This is what a bowfin looks like. It's not a mythical creature. It's actually an actual fish that you can catch. Well, at least you could catch it in the late 80s.
All right, we'll
in Bowie's Creek.
We'll save everything else for the book, but we should cut to an audio excerpt so they can make a decision. So you can make a decision about whether you want to download this here. But why do you need to make a decision? Why don't you just do it? Why do you need to be convinced by hearing an audio excerpt?
Well, what you can do is you can listen to this, and if it tickles your fancy, and I really don't know what that means.
Like a bowfin.
I've never had my fancy tickled. But if it does tickle your fancy, then or your ear, if the biscuit tickles your ear, then you can continue to listen to it on SoundCloud or on iTunes, whatever you prefer. It's open to all, and it's free. Give me a break. It's free. We're not even charging for it.
Let's not be bitter about it. Let's be inviting. Listen to the excerpt.
Well, since when do you get free biscuits? Name a place you get free biscuits.
Here it is.
So it was at Lakeside. I started off doing computer stuff. I have actually a good story about that. I was working in making websites internally at the Lakeside School, and I made one for the Parents Association.
Okay.
Parents Association is kind of like the PTA.
Right.
And they needed an update on their website. And so I'm like, all right, okay, I'll do that. So February 14th rolls around. By the way, this will give you an idea of where I was socially before the movie thing happened. So I'll talk about that. We'll get to that in a second. So
Valentine's Day.
You
were working on the high school website.
Yeah. Well, hold on. With a small group of people for the Parents Association. Y'all have cubby holes at this school, a little mailbox, and there's a what did they call them? Candygrams, aka you could purchase through some student organization, a couple bucks, get a little Valentine thing delivered to a person of your choosing.
Oh yeah,
in the hole. I had one that year. I was like, oh my gosh, who is this?
You received one.
I received one. I saw it from across the hallway. This little thing sticking out. I was Wong, last letter of the name, bottom right corner. There it is. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Previous years, it seems previously that you did not receive these.
It was according to precedent that this is a unprecedented event in every definition of that word. So I go to him like, holy, who is this? It's on. Got a crush. All right, open it up. I you not, dear Freddie. Thanks for help on the website, the Parents Association.
So your first Valentine was from the parents.
Was from everyone's moms, which is how I flipped it around.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's a good twist.
That's a piece of it. Don't you want the whole thing? Why get a piece when you can have the whole?
Don't sound too desperate. I mean, listen, just make your own decisions about your life. Don't listen to us. What do we know? You make your own decisions. It's like a choose-your-own-adventure game that was written in DOS. You want to be friends with this dragon, or you want to kill this dragon? I'll let you decide which one.
But you have to type, and there's no mouse.
Which one, is listening to the podcast.
Was there even a mouse?
I think it's making friends with the dragon.
I think there was a mouse.
We should have called this Enter the Dragon. That's what we should have called the podcast.